According to FanSided, Montez Sweat is apparently the Chicago Bears' worst contract. Is that true? We're going to talk a little bit about that. First, we're going to talk about Ben Johnson and the thing that the offense can improve on the most under Ben Johnson. And we're going to look into the mailbag. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. We want to start off with this article from FanSided in which they were talking about the most overpriced contracts on each team's worst contracts, and apparently Montez Sweat got the moniker of being the Bears' worst contract, according to Lou Scottgalia over at FanSided, which is a crazy statement to say. Like, make no mistake about it, I do think that there is something about Montez Sweat and, you know, the way that he can play much better for the Chicago Bears. But let's get into this article. It was said this: Montez is a very good player, but I bet you had no idea he's getting paid nearly $25 million per year. Sweat was a trade addition by Bears GM Ryan Poles, and it's not been his best move. In 2024, Sweat played in 16 games and finished with 5.5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 12 QB hits. While being a D-line is more than just pass rush statistics, you absolutely would expect more in the department from a top-paid defensive end. All right. Now, there are some valid things there. I want to be clear here, right? Like, I do think that asking more of Montez Sweat than what he gave last year, that goes like you can't state that yeah, we need more from Montez Sweat. I do think you have to look at things in the concept of what happened here with the Chicago Bears. Like, the defense was trash last year. Like, the defensive play calling, we didn't blitz very often. Montez didn't have a lot of help on that defensive line, and teams were able to zero in on him and double team him quite a bit. Now, I still want to see better stats from Montez, absolutely. And that's been one thing that, you know, when Bears fans point out that Montez statistics aren't necessarily the best, I get what you say there, especially with how he came in, leading the Bears in sacks in his first year here, being traded halfway through the season. Hell, he led both the Bears and the Commanders in sacks last year, the season before last, and after being traded there. Now, Montez does need to do more. And I think the Bears and what they've added on the defensive line is going to help that considerably. But I think we can't take, and this is why, like, for example, like, and this is not to throw a shot at Darius, but when Darius mentioned, like, oh, well, great players, they play great regardless of who else is on the line. They need to perform regardless. Like, Montez and a lot of players impact and statistics were impacted by the fact that A, play calling, B, defense playing bad overall. You need all three levels of the defense playing well, and overall just that defensive line not having necessarily the pass rush and the success rate that's needed. When you're able to kind of focus in on one guy being the majority of your pass rush, Javon Dexter, who started off the season hot but fell off after Billings went down, XYZ, he wasn't staying the same. The production we got on the opposite side of Montez Sweat didn't stay the same, mainly because, like, players that we needed had to move inside and out, things like that. And the Bears never just really caught that rhythm after the early part of the season, and it did impact it. Now, when you look at Sweat and what he's done over the course of his career, 5.5 sacks isn't really that far off from what he's averaged. It's about 2 sacks off from what he's averaged over the course of his career. But, you know, to say that he needs to do more, the 2 forced fumbles that he had there as well, those type of things, like, it was there. 2 passes deflected. But to say that you need more from Montez Sweat, I think that's fair to say you need more from everybody on the defense. You need more from every single player on the defensive side of the ball. The way that this defense performed last year was not great. It just was not great. And Montez needs to be one of those guys. Him along with Tremaine Edmonds, they have to be better. These are 2 veterans, 2 of the highest paid players on that defensive side of the ball. Yeah, asking more of them just comes with the territory of not only their position, their veteran status as well. It just comes more with it. So I'm never going to say we don't need more from Montez Sweat, but calling Montez Sweat the Bears' worst contract, to me, I get it that he's the highest contract, and believe when he signed his extension, it was one of the highest extensions of Chicago Bears history. Then DJ Moore signed his after that. And DJ Moore is another player, another veteran player that we need more from in 2025. We need more from the veterans overall. But to act like the coaching staff didn't have an impact on this, I think is a little bit, you're missing the mark there. And I get it. People have to write their articles. They have to do their headlines. They have to get all that done. But I do think like now in getting Grady Jarrett, Javon taking another step up, which we heard, better overall, depth on the interior of that defensive line and on the defensive line overall, bringing in Deo, having Austin Booker, who's hopefully going to step up, Daniel Hardy, who's going to take another step up as well. It's not unfair, unrealistic to say that he should have a way better support. So Montez Sweat should be able to shine more, but he still needs to be that leader. But I think if people were, looking at the 12.5 sack, I think people need to realize before 2023, where he did get 12.5 sacks, the most sacks he ever had was 9 in 2020. Then he had 5 in 21 with 10 games played, 8 in 2022 with 8 games played, 6.5, with Washington in 2023. So that's just it comes with the territory. It is what it is. So Montez has an opportunity to play much better for the Chicago Bears, and nobody's wrong for asking more of him. I just think that the article kind of took it a little bit further than what it needed to go by calling him the Bears' worst contract. When, come on now, it's definitely not the worst contract. Is it a contract that we need better value out of? Absolutely. And that's just, like I said, that's the nature of Montez Sweat being a veteran on this team and the cachet that's around his name. He needs to be better. We need to be better. He needs to perform better. I think that's a large part in just this team overall. The better play calling, the better coaching, the better depth that we have now here. Montez better show up this year in a much larger way. I would say that a fair 8-9 sacks is a fair mark for Montez, right? Especially as we're seeing like what exactly that pressure from the other ends is going to bring. But I think 8 or 9 is a fair place for Montez to be in. If he can be more than that, we're talking about double digits, 12, 13, whatever it is. If he can be more than that, great. But I think a fair mark is 8 or 9 sacks. But let me know what you guys think. What is a fair expectation for Montez Sweat as far as sacks next year? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, let's move on from that, right? There's an article written over on Bears Goggles Now, which talked about the Bears and one of the ways that they can improve the most under Ben Johnson. And I think this is a really good way, right? They mentioned that in 2024, the Bears started off slow and did it consistently. By the time the first quarter ended, the Bears put themselves at a major disadvantage. The Bears scored a league-low 27 total points in the first quarter and averaged just 10 yards on opening drives, ranking them dead last. That's a great place to start at, right? Opening drives. We talked a lot about that during the season last year. And, of course, I think through the conversation of everything that needed to be upgraded this offseason, it's easy to miss certain things in certain aspects. But I think like starting off games better has to be something that we do better. We can not score in the first quarter of games. We cannot, not get a lot of, convert on multiple first downs on the first drives of games as well. The Bears put themselves at an early disadvantage, and that's what the article is basically saying. Now, a lot of that was Caleb sometimes it was the offensive line. There was a lot of things. There were a lot of things that went down with it, with the Chicago Bears, that caused the Bears to be in a position where shit went left for them, right? Shane Waldron's play calling was absolute trash, right? He was a big factor in creating that dysfunction when it came down to it. And you need to get there. You need to get to a better place of that. And I think now, remember when we found out that Shane Waldron didn't script plays to start the game? Ben Johnson's going to have this team ready to go. We're definitely going to be scripting plays. And I think that helps kind of get over that curve. Once Thomas Brown came in, he became the offensive coordinator, and we were scripting plays. We saw a little bit uptick in that. We still had some issues with play calling and things like that. But I think now if you look at Ben Johnson, and one thing that his impact can be felt right away with the Chicago Bears team, early drive, success early in the game. And it doesn't always have to be scoring, but success, getting more first downs, going further down the field, putting yourself in a position to maybe get field goals, put teams in a disadvantaged situation, even if you do have to turn the ball over on downs, whatever it is, by punting. Those are the things that we need to do. Better execution to start off the game goes so far in it when it comes down to it. Now, if you look at what Detroit did under Ben Johnson last year, the Detroit Lions were in the top half of the league in points scored in the first quarter with 81. That's the 13th most in the league. And they were 15th in the NFL in average yards gained on opening drives at 33 yards gained per opening drive. That's the type of production that we need to have here with the Bears if we're going to be a successful offense and not start off the game at a huge deficit like at times that we did last year. So I think that's a really good place to start off with this here, is looking at how much Ben Johnson has this team better prepared this season. So that's just kind of an early marker to look at. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Bears are going to have better success on opening drives this year under Ben Johnson than what they had last year under Thomas Brown and Shane Waldron. Let me know what you guys think on that. How important do you think it is to have that better success rate early in drives? What do you think that means for the team? Let me know what you guys think on that down below as well. Okay, now with that said, let's get into Darnell Wright. So Darnell Wright was called as a player that could end up joining the elite tackles in the game, right? And a large part of this is because of Dan Rouchar, right? You look at Dan Rouchar and the work that he's done as an offensive line coach in college and in the NFL. Working with Ryan Diem in Northern Illinois, he became a 4th-round pick for the Indianapolis Colts, and he was the starting right tackle on the 2006 Super Bowl team. Jack Conklin is another one that he recruited, and he was a future All-Pro at Michigan State. He eventually was a 1st-round pick as well. And then you look at Ryan Ramczyk, I believe is how you pronounce it, in 2017 with the Saints. And, of course, he's an All-Pro player as well. Darnell Wright, and for that matter, having that early in Ozzie Trapillo's career as well, and Kieran Amagaje, Dan Rouchar has an important job here. Yes, we brought in veterans to improve that offensive line, but building in the next set of offensive linemen for the Chicago Bears is hugely important here too. That next generation of Bears linemen all comes down to Dan Rouchar. They went out and got the veterans that help improve things now, but then by shoring up the development process for your young guys, you put yourself in an advantageous situation to where your development is going to be so key. That's what you want to see here for the Chicago Bears going forward. That's Dan Rouchar's job here, is to put in and bring in these guys or develop these guys on the offensive line, the young guys, right? You look at those players that we have here, and I think that maybe even Doug Kramer, right? I think even if you look at Doug Kramer as well, I know that's not a tackle, but having a guy like Dan Rouchar to help guide the development of those guys is going to be hugely important for the Bears to get to where they ultimately can go to. And so I think that I get it that Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, these are going to be the guys that get a lot of the accolades as being the new coaching staff of the Chicago Bears, and rightfully so. They both come with their own success at what they do, and they do it damn well. But Dan Rouchar and even Eric Bieniemy with the running backs, having position coaches that help develop your guys, that's something that when you start seeing, when you have guys that maybe play better for your team than maybe they do for other teams, or maybe they hit on their development faster, quicker, or whatever, and you get more out of them than what was initially speaking or thought of. That's how you build an organization. That's how you build a culture. And I think the Bears and Ben Johnson, whoever was the decision on getting Dan Rouchar in here, Eric Bieniemy in here, had to have that at least a little bit in the back of their minds, because that is an important part of team building. That is an important part of getting yourself out of this rut that the Bears have been in for years and years and years and years. And let's hope that that's going to be the case. Let's hope that that is going to be the case, that this team can get to that place and develop in the way that they need to develop. And so hearing that Dan Rouchar is one of the reasons that people think Darnell Wright is going to join the elite tackles this year, great. And like I said, the thing that my mind goes to is thinking stuff in the future is, what does this mean for a guy like Ozzie, who gets to start off his career with having Dan Rouchar there, and not like Darnell Wright had to start off his career with the turmoil that happened with the Chicago Bears? Those are things that I'm looking at for this team. Let's see how they're going to develop. But before we get out of here, or get into the mailbag, I should say, we got 2 voicemails to get into. We got to talk about Matt Eberflus. Oh my God. Matt Eberflus was on the Doomsday podcast, and he was talked about Caleb Williams, and he basically called Caleb Williams a liar, saying this. Back to your other question about the film watching and all that, I would say this, that in the development of the quarterback position, and really all positions at my time at the Bears, we always had daily coach film sessions. That was out there the entire year. So that's what I observed, and that's where it was. Now, we all knew that it was questionable, mad questionable, that coaches wasn't watching tape with their rookie quarterback, right? That's something that we all talked about, we all called out. But at the end of the day, right? We didn't hear it questioned by anybody else. And so to say that we had, and he didn't say specifically Caleb Williams, but he said we always had daily coach film sessions, right? Now, is the daily coach film sessions one that is like a group thing where you come in and you're like, yeah, we all watch tape together? But I think that Caleb was more so talking about the one-on-one. I think Matt Eberflus understands and knows that, right? He knows what the fuck Caleb Williams was talking about. Listen, it's weird either way. And I would hope that, there was some coach sessions at the end of the day. But Matt Eberflus does have the right to defend himself. He does have the right to defend what happened here, because it's been talked about so frequently and so oftenly. He has the right to talk about those things. Now, what's going to happen when it comes down to that? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. But I will say this. It's clear that something was going on with the coaching staff while they were here. Whatever that is, it's a part of the reason why Matt Eberflus and his staff did not work here and they're not here anymore. And I think at this point now, it's just about looking forward and getting it done and not letting that just be what it's going to be. I think that that's the biggest thing here is letting it be what it's going to be. And now that we have a coaching staff that we trust more, how do they develop these guys? Where do they pick up the baton from the last coaching staff and where do they improve at? And that's the thing I'm going to focus on. All the drama, all that other shit. We'll get to that point when we get to it. But all right, let's get into these voicemails, man. This one's for Milton.
Yo, hey, Bobby, C-Dub, Big Cam, Steve-O, Cognac Boys, what it do? It's your man, Milton, the real Dark Knight, calling from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Once again, it's been a minute since I hit y'all up on the line. Hope all has been well with all of y'all. I see y'all been dropping them videos as always. Y'all my number one spot for Chicago Bears news. But anyway, I just want to get to some questions. Hopefully y'all can give me some insight into it. My thing is, I'm looking at our defensive line. There's two players in particular that I'm really going to be keeping my eye on this forthcoming season and even during preseason and everything. The first one is the obvious one is Tremaine Edmonds. Since he's been here, he's had like flashes here and there, but he hasn't shown me why they need to keep this young man here on the team and everything. I'm sure he can step up. I'm sure they're helping him to step up. But I guess this is his last year of his contract. So do y'all see the Bears cutting him if he doesn't come up to par or whatever? And then my second one that a lot of people might have not have talked about it, y'all probably talked about it and I've missed it, is Montez Sweat. Montez, since he's been here, I haven't seen why he's worth all that $100 million contract. I haven't seen much out of him. I just hope and pray that he doesn't do like how they signed Robert Quinn a few years back to almost $100 million, and he barely showed up except for one season. I just hope he's not trying to pull one of those numbers. I'm not saying he is, but I'm definitely trying to keep my eye on Montez. Hope he can step up in the thing. And also, do y'all know if Ben Johnson's going to be doing the two tight end setup, trying to emulate almost what the Patriots were doing there when Tom Brady was there with Gronk and Hernandez and everything? Because it's kind of like a lot of these armchair so-called football experts is like, man, they just need to trade Cole Kmet, and he just signed that contract not too long ago, and they already want him on the chopping block. So I just wanted to know, because he's not a Gronk type player, but the dude can play when he's out there when they're utilizing him the right way. Do y'all see with these new additions to the team, they're going to be using him a lot more, or they're going to kind of ease up and let the new guys get some more reps in because they're just joining the team? I just need to know what y'all thoughts are on that. But anyway, hope y'all doing well. I got to get back out here on my post office route to deliver the mail with parcels out here in the summer heat. As always, Chicago up, Bear down, FGB. I'll holler at y'all on the next one.
Keeping an eye out for Tremaine Edmonds and Montez. Well, I think that's important. Now, Tremaine has one more year left on his deal after this season. I think this is going to be an important season if Tremaine does want to stay here with the Chicago Bears and not be a cut candidate, because the Bears can save quite a bit of money if they do end up cutting his contract. And I think when you have guys like Power Echols and Ruben Hippolyte and those guys really kind of stepping up as rookies, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen in the draft. So Tremaine is going to have to watch out, and he's going to have to really perform well. Like I said, Tremaine hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been great either. And I think when you look at what you paid him to be, you paid him to be great. And I think that's the thing that you have to look at when it comes down to Tremaine. He has to be better. But like I said, even with Montez Sweat in the opening segment, there's a lot of places where coaching, where play calling, where better balance overall on your defense is going to help everybody kind of take a step up. And let's hope that Tremaine can be one of those guys. As far as Montez, basically spent the whole first segment of the show talking about Montez and what he can bring to this Bears team. And let's hope that he can get it, man. Let's hope that he gets to that place that Montez performs much better for us, because a Montez Sweat that's on does a lot for the Chicago Bears. I think that's something that everybody sees that's evident. As far as the two tight end sets, yes, we will see a lot more two tight end sets under Ben Johnson. He's going to bring that, and I think that 12-man personnel in those type of sets, that's going to be kind of the bread and butter for the Chicago Bears this year, especially when you want to get Caleb Williams more under center, that Ben Johnson wants to call way more under center than what Caleb Williams has ever done in his career. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot more of that, Milton. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Old Darius from Dallas, man. Happy Father's Day to all y'all, man, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm going to be spending mine going to go watch these sorry-ass White Sox get beat by the Texas Rangers today. But it'll be good to be there and at least be in the moment and see some baseball. But anyway, man, one thing that I just kind of thought of about Caleb, man, is the thing I do like the most about Ben Johnson's offense and scheme, and I never even really thought about this, is they've always talked about, how, like, can he play within structure? That was always what was coming out of the draft, is he's got talent, he's got all this and that, he's got all these physical abilities and tools and throws that no other quarterback can make and all that, but can he play within structure? That's the thing we kept hearing about in the draft. Okay, well, now he's a part of a Ben Johnson offense to where he has no choice but to play within structure, because Ben Johnson's offense is actually catered to fix Caleb's biggest weakness, which is holding on to the ball too long. When Caleb holds on to the ball too long, he starts getting antsy. He starts trying to be goddamn John Elway every play. It's just second nature to him, and sometimes that turns out to be great for us, all right? But his biggest flaw is holding on to the ball and causing some of his own sacks. Well, Ben Johnson's offense is predicated on getting the ball out quick. That's a big emphasis with his offense. His offense doesn't leave any room for error for a quarterback to sit back there and shuck and jive and dance around and all that. He doesn't even structure it that way. So Caleb's going to have a whole off season where there's been emphasis on, hey, let's get the ball out quick. Don't try to be fucking Superman every play. Get the ball out quick. And that is so key to his development. And it was really the only missing piece in his game. That's it. That's all it was. So I'm excited to see how not only how Ben Johnson is going to affect the offense, but how he's going to affect Caleb's overall mentality as a quarterback now. Because he doesn't have that room for, all right, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Caleb knows now. The one way to break a player from doing that shit is to let him get hit in the mouth 68 times, followed by an off season of having a coach that immediately shows him how to fix it. And I can't think of a better situation for him to be in than that. So, man, I'm very excited about the concept and the scheme he's in now. I think that's the one missing piece to fix his biggest weakness. But let me know what y'all think. Check this up right now.
Ben Johnson's impact on Caleb Williams is one of the most important things of this season. Some would call it the most important thing, and that's fair if you do that too. But it is definitely one of the most important things, not just for this season for the Bears, but for the future of the Bears. You need this marriage between Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson to work. You need it to work. You need it to yield the results that you want from your first overall pick at quarterback and making your first-time head coach one of the highest-paid head coaches in the NFL right now. You want that. You need that. So, yeah, I think the relationship between that, how he can help him over that curve, all those type of things are there. It's evident. And Ben Johnson knows the importance of that. He's talked about that several times, how that relationship, working with Caleb, all those things are important into this season. So let's hope that that's going to be there. Let's hope that that's going to get there to that point. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, we're going to have some issues. But I think overall, Ben Johnson and what he's going to bring here with the offense, with the play calling, with building the system around what the strengths of the players that we have here are, yeah, you're going to see a lot of that be really good for this Bears team. And I think it's really going to be important for Caleb's development as well. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.